something so drastic never made me understand. Makes me understand how
Yeah.
just the small things, the shrimping industry,
Yeah.
those who fish.
Oh, fishing industry?
Yes.
Is that
Yeah.
what you said?
Yes,
Oh.
no, the shrimping.
Shrimping.
Yeah, I'm highlighting shrimping.
Okay.
Right.
He likes shellfish.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with that, man. I'm allergic.
I like a lot of fish, but anyway, so the shrimp, yeah, the shrimp. Hey, I said it
Bubblegum
right.
shrimp?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that,
Shrimp.
that, yeah, my cousin. So it's like that's been damaged. Of course, you
Yeah.
know the oranges, but they talked about how that whole livestock and how damaging it's going to be for us.
Yeah.
In the upcoming months. So all those who love shellfish, especially the jumbo shrimp, like you're going to be paying a lot more for
And
your
it's-
jumbo shrimp because it's going to be a shortage.
But not only that, we already are affected financially since the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
we're experiencing inflation.
Right.
Rent,
Through the roof.
gas is now starting to come down
Yes.
gradually.
Right.
But we're experiencing all kinds of inflation,
Right.
going to the supermarkets and stuff like that. So imagine how we're gonna be, especially people, we get a lot of export coming from Florida.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
Orange-
be impacted that much more.
I think
Orange-
that's the
orange-
biggest part to,
yes.
to really, because we believe that everything is esoteric. Like, oh, well, we're fine. We're in our own little bubble. But it's
Right,
not.
right.
You're going to be negatively impacted
Yes.
somewhere in the world. A tree falls and you get the negative repercussions of it, all the way over here. So these things happen.
The average price for a gallon of orange juice is now $8.98.
Get out of here. I'll squeeze my own oranges.
$8.98.
I'll squeeze my own
Now,
oranges.
mind you,
I'm allergic.
that's average. I've been to stores that's selling a gallon for $10.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes, $10.
Yeah.
That's insane. And that's in short, that's just a small fraction of what's being affected. Now, another thing, right? You talked about tourism in Florida. For all those who have the aspirations of retiring and moving to a place like Tampa, now would you go after something like this?
Well, I mean, isn't this been a part of Florida's story? I mean, this has always been a part of Florida's story. If we go back to all the different names, Ian, Evan, et cetera, and so forth. So it's not stopping people from going there. I would also like to state that, shout out to my family, Mama, Iris, and my brothers who live in Tallahassee, who were completely unaffected by the storm.
Right.
And
People who were
Tampa,
inland.
they had expected Tampa to be hit as hard, but Orlando actually got hit harder.
Yeah.
in some
Everything by the
areas.
eastern coastal line, and those are, the most impacted areas, and they're going to continuously be the most impacted areas. But what we're talking about, like we're retirement places in Florida,
Yeah.
most people aren't, they're more inland. They're not really on the outskirts or the shore areas. So, I mean, it's not going to deter them from moving forward. I don't believe so, because Florida is still the destination spot for retirees.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, yeah, it's hurricane season. It's hurricane season. It's just what it is.
I think that one of the things that we need to look at as we look at what Florida is going to right now is like I think you mentioned how our government is responding. Because when I think about what's going on, and let's not forget that Puerto Rico was also impacted, and Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, right?
The longest colonized place in the world,
So,
to be exact.
Let's
So-
not forget that how they were affected by it and just experienced Maria not too long ago, Hurricane Maria. And then when you look at Florida, a state, Puerto Rico, a territory, and the aid or lack thereof, but then you look at the Ukraine.
Oh, you
And-
starting trouble.
Oh, yeah, I'm starting trouble.
You
Millions
starting
of
trouble.
dollars.
I'm starting trouble. So like Tupac said, you got money for war, but can't feed the poor.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Why do we continue to let our government do this? We elect these people. We are paying their
Yeah.
salaries, literally.
I like to throw, so there's a little caveat there. And the problem is that, for one, we haven't seen anything as far as money, what kind of monies are going to be allocated. But
Not enough.
Yeah, what I'm thinking, and this is just my assumption, that there's going to be a big difference between territory and state. And we're going to realize that Florida, South Carolina, those places are going to be taken care of better. I still believe that it'll be inefficient based off of what we've seen so far.
Right, the devastation.
But I do think that as far as, the devastation and, putting money towards some things, Puerto Rico is not going to see what it, or it will see what it normally sees, which is pretty much under-supported and under,
Right.
underfunded. Yeah, neglect, basically. Yeah, so that does happen. And a much bigger question is, too, why they've been a territory for almost 100 years.
That's a whole nother episode because you
yeah.
have so many people there in that territory who's fighting for their true independence. And they don't
They're
want
fighting to be separate.
Be separated, right.
They will never
and
happen.
Be their own country.
It will never happen. So we need to come to some, because it's the rich port. And from a strategic point of view, pretty much you can pretty much just come in and it would be a single point of invasion to our country.
Right.
We would never ever give up on Puerto Rico. That's why when Spain left Puerto Rico, we jumped in there immediately. And Puerto Rico had its own independence for less than 2 weeks. So, and it will never have full independence. So we need to just acknowledge it and just make it a state and move forward.
It's a gateway and a great point of attack. So,
yes, it is. Yes,
so
it is.
It would never, just strategically. I'm sorry, Erica, to burst your bubble.
What?
But also, the vice president was also attacked for some of the misleading comments she made.
Yeah.
You want to embellish on that?
So yeah, when it came to Kamala Harris, and this is just based off of light reading, she was being attacked because there were right-wing media outlets that were actually going out there and saying that basically she was saying that relief funds were going to be dedicated towards people of color. But it was a very long conversation that she was actually having. She was having it, I forget the young lady's name. I want to say Chopra was the last name. I know it was a woman of Indian descent, but I don't want to be wrong. But I do recall the conversation. It was just a long, broad answer, which wasn't specifically focused on relief funds and its allocation, but it was taken that way. And I just think that when we're talking about times of crisis and confusion, the worst thing we can do as a country is pretty much act divided. Right. We should be looking to help out. So words shouldn't be taken out of context. But in a political realm, people have to do care to make sure that whatever you're saying is definitely something that you can back, because it's going to be used and scrutinized as it should.
It's going to be used against you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, VP Harris, I mean, she knows better. And she understands how everything she say will be scrutinized.
Yeah,
especially politically in the climate and what's going on now between
and they're going to take part of what she said.
Trump.
It's not like they're going to look at the entirety. Like you said, it was a very lengthy thing. The one thing that she said that may have stood out is what's going to be broadcasted, what the media is going to take hold of, because they do anything to implement distractions. And that's another thing that we need to discuss. We don't know what the aid is that's going to be allocated, whether it's to Florida, whether it's to Puerto Rico. But what we do know is historically, even states are not given the aid that they need. So I think what Kamala Harris was saying, that she wants to give the money to the people who need it most.
Right.
And typically people of color do tend to need more because they're already disenfranchised. They're already, dealing with situations where they don't have it. There was some people who, I don't know if you guys were watching it, was surfing. And they were, out on the beach. I saw children playing. So typically Floridians are used to this type of thing. They might not have taken it as seriously as they should have and left. It was a state of emergency. But that doesn't mean that you don't issue the aid when it's needed.
Yeah, distractions,
I believe that, of course, like you said, the aid will be rendered. But, of course, in certain areas, they're always the last ones to receive it. I mean, we haven't learned anything from Hurricane Katrina. Because I tell you, you still got people who, generations, who've been displaced forever and would never.
There's a lot of people who moved to Texas, who moved to Atlanta, who moved to
Louisiana.
What that is,
Louisiana. You said Texas, Atlanta.
They moved from Louisiana to Texas, to Atlanta, Georgia. A lot of people who were New Orleans residents moved to these different places because they were displaced. And I visited there last year, and there are areas that are still isolated.
I was about to say that.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
I was about to say that. There's definitely areas that's still never fully recovered.
Yeah.
And again, and that's because of the population who populated the area. You understand? So it's always some tricks in politics.
That, and we can't neglect the fact that, like you said about Florida being a marshland, New Orleans is below sea level.
Yes, it always
so
will be.
Yeah.
The problem is with the infrastructure, they're never going to be able to put the money that is needed to really, make that state or that particular area, I guess, waterproof, for lack of a better term. It could never be.
Yeah. There's always been problems with levees, in New Orleans, and just like there's always been problems with everything that we have going on with the hurricanes. And I think what we need to start to focus on when it comes to these hurricanes and all of these other things that are going on is the fact that people are negatively impacted mainly because of the region in which they live. These things come with a lot of, different, upkicks, you're by the beach, you're by this, you're by a lot of other things. But global warming tells us that a lot of these things are going to be assumed and reclaimed by the sea. Right. And we're seeing a lot of that
and we're seeing that
take
place now. I'm not going to get into Revelations. We're not going to talk about that. No. But what we're going to do is we are going to move on to definitely our next topic, man. Something that we wanted to talk about weeks ago was a lot of the historical black colleges are having these bomb threats and scares.
I think that it's tragic that more so than the bomb threats is just understanding that everything is going on, because right now, it's we would think that after the pandemic that we wouldn't have so many issues. We wouldn't have issues with, race being so prevalent in our society. But we realized that, with the George Floyd thing and everything else that happened immediately after pandemic, we go right back into the same things. Grocery stores, people are being attacked in grocery stores, which are predominantly,
Black.
patronized by black people. And now we have to worry about our children in HBCUs. We have 107 HBCUs. In this country, and we've had over 59 of them have received bomb threats this year. That's crazy when you consider that more than half of the schools, in proportion, have received bomb threats. That's a real big issue, and it's not being talked about.
And not only is it not being talked about,
it would have been an Ivy League.
But excuse me,
facts.
It's not your turn.
Fact.
Not only is it not being discussed. You know what?
It's going to be like this little ticket meter moving on. I'm telling you guys, I promise I am not going to mediate. I'm going to enjoy this like the rest of you.
But I'm not. Anyway, so it's not only that it's not getting noticed and it's not being publicized, but also are the law enforcement actually taking some of these things to its severity the way they should? To my understanding, that's not being the case.
The FBI does not want to
acknowledge that and want to investigate it. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, and that's tragic and sad. And I don't want it to be highlighted because it's race driven. But I would say, like the shadow in the whisper in the room said, what if it was an Ivy League college? Like, what if it was Princeton and Yale? Because that's what I was thinking.
I'm the shadow and the whisper in the room, apparently.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But my voice is heard.
Yeah.
And to that note, I think that it's important that we understand the importance of representation and how HBCU colleges came into place, colleges and universities came into place because of the lack of representation in mainstream upper education. And when you look at that and you look at the disparity between the protection that they would receive and their white counterparts would receive, or predominantly white schools, it's scary because that's what's happening in the country in and of itself. So it's not just happening in the HBCUs, but the fact that there isn't any attention, there's no media attention going to it, the FBI is not investigating like they should be investigating. It just goes to show that Black Lives Matter is not just a hashtag. We're saying that because our lives do matter. And until people realize that our lives matter, we need to do more. We need to take back the power that we know we have, and we need to start being active.
So can I ask you a question, Ms. Bermudez? When you did read some of the things that was taking place, in the black historical colleges, did you post any of these things on your page? Making the people aware of what's going on? Like that? I'm just, okay.
Because that's what this platform is for.
Okay, so maybe, all right. If I had this platform and if I had a page such as yours, I'm just saying I would put that on my page.
First of all, I don't have that many followers. and our shows get an uptick of views depending on the show.
Strength
So
in numbers.
there is more people that are going to view this show that's going to view my social media platform. So I use this platform in order to disseminate that information, and then I want you guys to hashtag protect the HBCUs. How about that?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
How
talking
about that?
Let's start with your own
Did you
page
do
first.
you have
Definitely
a page?
guilty over here because I have over close to 5,000 followers. I have not
And
posted
you,
it at
you know
all.
what? Shame on you.
One time.
What about your social media, Kali? What
I
about
don't-
your? What say
Crickets.
you?
Holly don't got social.
Okay.
I don't indulge in.
But the other thing is, we don't just have to rely on social media. Although that is a good platform in order
It's a
to
tool
share.
that we
It
actually
is a
can,
tool.
can use our voice.
I'm
yes.
not gonna leave my. Don't be touching the top of my glass. I gotta put my mouth on it. Leave my water right there.
I just
Anyway, as
purified
I was
that water,
saying.
by the way.
Anyway, as I was saying, the other thing is just
And the
starting
links
the
of Minnetonka.
conversation. Starting the conversation.
Yes. But that's my point. I mean, I'm, and it's great to start the conversation here, but I really would have loved to see it on your page. I purified that, by the way.
And the lakes of Minnetonka.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm trying to, but in all reality, guys, I would say that let's sometimes we got to discard what's famous and actually dig deep into what's going on that concerns us collectively and local. We got a comment.
We got a couple of comments here. Shout out to.
Go ahead. Never mind.
Shout out to our Vice President JB John Boma, who is kind of piggybacking on what I said, but to his point, what he says is, and I'm quoting, if it were at Harvard, it would be investigated because we have to understand that those in power send their kids to Ivy League as opposed to their commodities. Is that what that said?
Communities, maybe.
It says commodities.
All
So
right.
to speak, attending HBCUs, and he's right.
Yeah.
When you have the powers that be, like a governor, a mayor, or somebody in political power, and if their child is being affected by these bomb threats, and even though they are just threats, the fact that they're continuing, I believe the last one that I heard of was late August.
Late August was definitely one, and then we haven't even gotten any kind of statistics for September yet.
Yeah.
So it could actually be as
Be
recent
more.
as last week.
Well, also
Yeah.
understand that if it's not receiving the attention that it should.
Oh, we're
just
looked at
imagine
as commodities. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I apologize.
Some of these things actually would be buried.
Yep.
So you really wouldn't actually know the accuracy of what's going on there.
That's so
I think
true.
that there's always, and to your point, because a lot of people get stuck on the race part of it, but we understand that race is just a bastard child of classism. So,
Right.
Harvard, as you stated, is a funded school. Right. And it's crazy because they're more funded than all HBCUs, that's one. And the crazy thing is, Harvard doesn't have any sports programs that are reputable, Harvard's known for so many other things, where most of those, MSUs and those other schools are pretty much supported by their athletics
Athletic
departments
programs.
and our athletic programs. So, HBCUs came into play. I think the first accredited one was created a year. Less than a year after 1865, after slaves were emancipated in 1863, but after the war ended in 1865. So immediately after, blacks started to go right into college and the collegiate studies. So we're looking at that and understanding that there's always been a funding problem. We're trying to address the funding issue. So not only are you underfunded, now you have these security issues as well. Right. And these things like Harvard and things like that might actually be able to be taken care of if there was funding that were going to these HBCUs. Maybe that we can put provisions in place that they can take care of themselves, because obviously it's not getting the attention that it needs to get right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Another comment that I just want to point out, HBCUs are a threat to the establishment or the system. And I totally agree with that, because when you educate black people and they get to know who they are and the origin of their existence, we are powerful.
Yeah, and it's not just us. Yeah.
But black and brown people, you know, because we're the ones who are placed into these situations. So and why give aid to them? Why investigate this? They don't care.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, and what I meant was we're seeing an uptick in white kids going to HBCUs as well.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, which
Well,
is
that I
you know,
can't
which is
understand.
well, the thing is, if you really want to change the country, then you have to be able to teach
Right.
its true history.
It's true.
You know, well,
Right.
I'm not going into critical race theory, but
Right.
We
what I'm saying
should.
is,
We should definitely on another
but-
show.
but-
We
On
need
another
to
show.
have that
But- but yeah,
conversation.
But yeah,
You're absolutely right.
it is beneficial. So it's not just us, you know, who benefit. To be 100% honest, there is no provision set aside for blacks in general that we've solely benefited from.
Right.
You know, that would be a stronger, you know what I mean, conversation about reparations or something later. But when we say affirmative action is pretty much the biggest beneficiary of affirmative action are white women. When we're talking about civil rights, all right, well, where there's provisions for people to be able to come into this country from all over the world.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So we knew that in order to pass the civil rights bill, we were going to have to throw in everyone
inclusive.
and be completely inclusive. So it's not specific to blacks. So we need to come together and say, well, what's affecting this community is going to affect all communities essentially, because we've pretty much been the linchpin or the backbone to help support all communities.
All communities.
so-
I
and
have a
causes,
question
always.
for you though. And I asked this question wholeheartedly because, like I said, I feel like representation is important, and I feel like going to a historical black college or university is important to see your culture, to
Yes.
be taught your culture. How do you feel that there is an uptick of more white people that wants to attend these universities?
It doesn't negatively impact my view of it whatsoever. Just came back from the Congressional Black Caucus weekend.
In DC.
In DC. And I went with a couple, you know, reputable people from Jersey City. And while we were out there, one of my brothers, shout out to Louis Spears, he took us to Howard. And we went on campus and got a chance to see people there. I'm going to tell you, it's still more than heavily black in that area. Because I think, you know, when it comes to that specifically, we're a people who are negatively impacted by economic changes, gentrification, and we don't want to see that reflected in our schools
Right.
and those historically black universities. But I do think that we're talking about, you know, educating the new, you know, like the new leaders, having those people go to I think, honestly, there should be some kind of exchange to where a lot of schools are required to at least take a semester in an HBCU.
And that was going to be, you know, my statement and comment. I believe in order for us to change the world, they need to be exposed to that,
Yeah.
right? Because
We're
seriously.
negatively impacted by inclusion, and
yeah.
I get her point.
That's-
Yo,
We're often negatively impacted by
You're right,
inclusion.
but
Yeah.
Let me
most
just
of,
say
most of the
this.
reason can I finish?
Yeah, finish your
The
point.
reason why we're so consumed by racism is because you hate what you don't understand. So in order for those who truly want to be a participant in changing the world, you have to be able to understand us as a people. Now, you can't say, well, they infiltrators, and now, listen, man, that's been going on since the day of time. But we have to try to find a different way. And if you're gonna have leaders that's gonna, you know, go in a different direction, if they're educated around us and by us, just maybe, you know what I mean? Just maybe, I don't know. But I'm willing to try something completely different than what's going on in the status quo. Go ahead, Ms. Muniz.
I mean, listen.
Go, light skin, Keisha, go.
All I'm saying is that it is okay for us to have something for us.
Agreed.
I'm not against
1000%.
that. I'm not against
Because
that.
1000%.
historically,
Yeah.
whenever we try to have something, let's not forget the Tulsa massacre. Let's not forget the things that
Rosewood.
Rosewood and Seneca Village. Let's not forget about the things. Shout out to Mama, because she's the one who educated me on Seneca Village, which is sad in and of itself. The education system is flawed because we don't know about these things.
She's going back into critical race theory.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna stray away from that. Hold on, let me just get to my
Yeah.
point. I'm gonna stray away from that. My point is this: we need to be able to have something for us. And if HBCUs turn into HWBCUs, then like what's the
It's
point?
not. I don't agree with, you know, it changing. I believe that, hey, listen, it has to be not even a percentage, but I don't mind it. I'm not saying it should be geared towards the advertised. I'm not saying that.
There
But-
are provisions that take into concern what you're speaking of specifically. So, you know, just to understand that there are provisions in place. Another thing is we have to talk.
1%.
Yeah.
That's it. They get 1%. And that's in all 107.
Yeah. Well, the uptick really has more to do with affordability, right? Because
Right.
these
I
schools
get
were
it.
often cast aside and saying, like, oh, they're
Right.
not real institutions.
Right.
They're barely accredited, et
Right.
cetera, and so forth. And then
Right.
we're starting to realize that a lot of our great brilliance can only be found there. So where do
Right.
you get your Post Malone? Where does he
Right.
be able to go and learn about musics and things like that?
Right.
It makes more sense to go to the
Didn't
source
Kamala
and stuff
Harris
like
go to an
that. Kamala
HBCU?
Harris
She
did
went
go
to-
to an HBCU.
And she's a part of the D9 organization, Greek organization. She's an AKA. So.
Yeah, so that's in and of itself, aka deltas and all the other historical, shout out to all the Greeks, by the way, but we do understand that when they say crossing the burning sands, you really got that from Africa. But still in all, when we're talking about those things, we're understanding that people are coming for culture and education,
Right.
And that's really what's going on in the HBCUs, and that's why it's so vital to protect them. Because you're not going to get that anywhere else.
Yeah,
and that's
That's
just
my
what it is.
point.
Well, we wasn't disagreeing with you. We were
No,
just
no,
saying
and I'm not
that.
disagreeing with you guys either.
yeah.
But if I had my own HBCU, they ain't coming in there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hear you.
1%.
There are predominantly black colleges and schools as well, 19 of which have received bomb threats as well.
Yes,
You know,
that
so
are
we
not
do have that.
HBCUs,
That
they're
are not
predominantly
HBCUs, they're
black.
just predominantly
Right.
black institutions. So that has happened as well.
Well, I'll say this to all our young people that's furthering their education, across the land. Listen, be careful, be mindful. Whispers get louder. Threats, actually, sometimes people start wanting to take action. Start thinking about, what you would do if you was in that environment, and where would you go, what to look for.
Yes.
Like, be vigilant, and also prepare yourself.
Pay attention to
Yes.
your surroundings.
That is-
Yes.
That is, it's warranted but terrible at the same
It's
time.
sad.
It
It's sad
is,
that
but-
we
Yeah,
have
because
that.
guess
you
what?
remember
But
having
that's the
had
world-
that conversation with your parents.
Right.
Well,
But
when a
that's the
police
world.
officer pulls you over,
Put
hands
your
10 and
hands
2.
up, yeah.
Make
Right.
sure that you have everything reachable. Don't make sudden movements. Don't make
Sad.
certain, and it's a very sad reality.
It is, but key word, it's our reality.
Yeah, but the thing is, we have to evolve out of
since,
that.
And since 9/11, right, we got to understand that, these things are alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
And the greater, it sucks because I start to think about how, mental health play into any and everything.
Absolutely.
And you have so many people that continually get bullied all right.
He's pausing because he was the bully.
Listen.
Holly, say it ain't so.
Yes.
Say it ain't so.
Yes.
Behind that mean
anywho.
machine exterior lies a heart of gold, people.
Anywho,
Big old teddy bear.
I'll say this. I kind of think that, being a people who are bullied, I kind of believe that it's a part of life. Like,
You just want to put a disclaimer out there before you
I'm
go
just
further.
saying.
It's not
Can we
a
just
part
put a
of
disclaimer?
It's a part of life, and I believe that,
Yeah.
again, it's something that you can live through and move forward to where you don't have to be so damaged to where you're willing to hurt other people in masses.
Well,
Kids
I mean,
are
that's
literally
crazy.
committing suicide now because
Right.
of bullies. So
Right.
it's
That's
not
just-
a part of life. Being
Yeah.
bullied is not a part of life. And
I don't agree
there
with
are
it, but
adult
what-
bullies too.
I don't agree with it.
They
I'm
grow
not
up
saying,
to be children bullies. I'm pointing to this one. Children bullies grow up to be
It's
adult
still
bullies.
It's still not true, people. I love the world. All right.
Somebody said you a chocolate bully. I ain't gonna say who. Just read the comments.
Well, I'll say this. I'm certainly not a bully, guys. I love everyone. Kisses to all
the
the
disclaimer
mistress
should have came first. I tried
What?
to. The
Because
disclaimer should have came
but that's
first.
not true. But what I'm saying is, it's just
Yeah.
almost like we're dealing with a weakened generation. It's
And that's
like
what you wanted to say, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, at some point, if my kids come home and say, "Oh, Dad, I'm getting bullied," I mean, I'm gonna go from empowering her, letting her know that, listen, how confident she should be for all
Yeah.
these other reasons, and that everyone gonna have a problem with you because they don't like your shine.
I hate to
They see
pivot
that
from
you're a
it,
star,
but I
but-
would say that for the most part, and the only reason because when it comes to bomb threats and HBCUs, there is obviously a racial element there.
Right.
So I'll push back on that only to say that if there is something, and I do, and I don't want to say this, but I do project that there will be some travesty that
Right.
will befall some university, in the future, and I don't want to say near future,
Right.
but it will be racially motivated, which is a little bit different. We do understand that it's societal bullying,
Right.
but it would literally be an attack for existence, or for something that someone could control at birth, and I think that that's a big part of it as well.
Right.
I think that it's important to understand what bullying is. And while we're kind of making fun about it a little bit, bullying, just teasing and, certain things, maybe, okay, it might build a little bit of character, but when you're constantly picking at somebody because of, maybe the way they look or something like that, or a lot of children now are dealing with this sexual orientation confusion, which is a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. But when you have children dealing with this identity of becoming who they are, and you have somebody constantly attacking that, and we have children as young as 8 taking their lives, and then it affects them. Bullying affects them in their adulthood, and they can't function. Then that's when you're taking it to a whole other direction. So do I think that it builds a little bit of character when you're teased and you have good parents at home who are encouraging you, to ignore it and rise above it, or who talk to the school officials to make it better? Yes. But when it gets to a point where it's affecting the academics or affecting the social emotional growth of an individual, that's where something needs to.
And it's adversity, not bullying. Let's just clarify that. Right. It's adversity builds character.
Yes,
bullying can be a tool of it, but it's adversity. And that's I just think that.
Well, overall, I just want to say bullying is bad. Kids don't bully.
Good.
Agreed. I
don't want to bully, but we want to talk about. We're gonna move on. We're gonna go to our relationship segment. We're actually gonna talk about bullying in the bedroom, but no, I'm joking. We're not talking about bullying in the bedroom.
I'm not qualified for this conversation.
But we do have a relationship concern or question. One of our viewers sent us, and Ms. Bermuda is gonna go in and she's gonna read the question.
Okay. If you're having issues with your partner, communication issues, cheating, not being satisfied in the bedroom, or having an issue with balancing quality time, how do you start the conversation and tell them how you feel? And how much time do you give your partner to rectify or change the behavior?
That's a multi-loaded question. That's
I was going to say, that's
7
layered.
questions in one.
Layered.
It's layered. All right, so this is the thing, right? When you have conversations, right, it's hard to generate one question because conversations have layers.
Of course.
So I overheard a conversation which sparked this. It was a conversation that I overheard where someone was saying, I'm not, wasting my time. If they not fixing it immediately, I'm not wasting my time. I'm leaving. But if you're in a committed relationship with somebody and everything is compromise, communication, give or take, do you just give up and walk away from somebody that, whether you're married or a long-term relationship, do you just man, forget it, I'm on to the next one? Or do you give it that time and nurture and help your partner learn your love language?
Again, that's a layered question, but Brother Chambers, I'll let you start first.
So you said 2 things, Erica, and you gave 2 examples. You said married or in a long-time relationship, 2 completely different things, right?
Well, a lot of people nowadays aren't really getting married. That's why I said that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of people choose not to get married, but they're in 10-year, 12-year. This particular person I'm talking about is in a 12-year relationship.
So it's, for all intents and purposes, it is a common law marriage?
It's not recognized in the state of New Jersey, so that's just verbiage.
Yeah, but I'm saying
it's a union.
At that point, it's definitely a union, and they can petition the courts for death benefits still. So, all right, we have that as an issue. And the only reason why I wanted to make that distinction is because one has vows and commitments and a signed contract that says the only way out of this is death.
Right.
And the other one
divorce.
is, unfortunately, divorce, right? And then the other one is pretty much, just like, all right, well, we're in a relationship for, whatever time that you're in a relationship. I just think that my thing is, anyone that gets to the short answer, which is, oh, well, I wouldn't tolerate that, I'm just going to leave, you didn't want to be there.
In the first place.
You
Right.
didn't want to be there. And what you're doing is, instead of looking for reasons to remain in a relationship and to be happy, you're looking for a way to get out of this relationship, and one that justifies the time that you put in.
Right.
And that's really what boils down to people. People are addicted to, the time that they put in with people, and it really doesn't matter how they feel about the individual because they've already, pretty much jumped into a toxic situation. Right. So if you made your mind up, don't use these talking points as a means of saying, oh, well, Kali said this or Erica said that, Rasheed said, no. You're in a toxic situation. Eventually it's going to come to an exit, pull a Band-Aid off and do what you have to do. But for those who are going to tough through it because, there has to be something that's worth it on the other side of it. If pain is the only thing that we can bring to each other, then golly, why are we still here?
Right.
So I want to read a comment, once again, from Vice President John Boma.
John is like the number one, commenter, number one fan, now that I'm no longer a fan. But yeah, he's like the number. I'm sitting in the seat now.
So he says, just sit down and start talking about it, unfiltered.
Oh no!
Hold up. Let me finish.
That's not good. That's certainly. Even I know better than that.
This is why I like reading the comments so that we can then have the conversation.
Yeah.
So unfiltered, address mutual faults and work to rectify together without placing a time constraint on it. So what are we addressing first? Because the time constraint, that's one thing. But the unfiltered thing, okay, I get what he's saying. I think what he's saying, be open, right? But when you're using the term unfiltered, it's like you going in there like, motherfucker, you do. We don't want that, because that turns into, we don't want that.
Well, even pure truth is dangerous.
Yes. Yes.
Wait, could you say that one more time?
Yeah. Even pure truth is dangerous.
You have to be able to gauge your tongue, and this is something that I learned in error.
Facts.
You understand? Because
Can you say that one more time?
You have to learn how to gauge your tongue.
Oh.
Because I'm gonna tell you, I learned that only through error, because I thought brutally being honest was the golden rule, but truly it's not. Especially when you understand your audience and potentially who you can hurt. So I would say, I would say this. Now, you use the example of someone who was together for 12 years, right?
Yeah.
And if it's the female that's on that, and I would want to consider how old they both were. Age is definitely an issue.
A factor,
because,
absolutely.
it definitely should take maturity and accountability, I do believe that there's also some realistic reality ideals. And when I say that, it's because, let's just say, if I know my woman is working 15 hours a day, she's going to come home and wrestle with the kids. I can't complain if she's not willing at the end of the day to put on some lingerie and get the mood right. I can't complain. I have to understand that.
No, I'm going to complain.
No, what I'm saying is I can't complain. But what I can do is create a different environment so that can happen.
All right. So you're saying that you're going to take the initiative to meet her halfway.
Yes.
Because I was going to say that has to happen.
So this is what I'm saying. You instead of you wanting to point fingers, right, and have an uncomfortable conversation at first. Did you do enough to change the environment?
Okay. Yeah.
Did you create a different way?
Yeah.
Right?
Expectations without explanation are mute.
Right.
You can't, No. I expect you to do this, and then there's no communication physically or verbally. Yeah.
Sit back and actually.
No. Finish your thought.
I was going to say, she got a good one right there.
No, I have another comment. I like to read the comments. So please bring them in. Bring them in.
She got a good one.
I think this
she jumped up.
I like this comment. Shayla Johnson is making this comment. And I like this comment because it
Shout out to you, Shayla.
It kind of ties into what John said, right? Quote, so what do you do when a person is unwilling to talk? They feel it's either their way or the highway. How can you work through that, especially when you've been Oh, I'm sorry. Especially when you've seen them through the worst of their life, but they didn't have the patience you showed them.
Well, you're not in a relationship. You're in a dictatorship.
Hold up. No. Listen. Yeah. What I gather from this, right? I gather from this is that there in relationships, right? Sometimes you're at the highlight in your life, and your partner might not be. Your partner might be struggling through some things, whether your partner is going through school and you're handling all the bills, or maybe your partner got laid off and is looking for work, and you're holding it down, and you're there, and you're showing empathy, and you're being encouraging. But when it flips, and you are like, I'm just piggybacking on something you said, you're coming home tired as the woman, and you don't want to maybe cook, and you do this 3-4 days out the week, and this man is like, I'm tired of this. I'm going to go seek somewhere else. How do you sit down and have these conversations when, okay, I held you down, now that I'm a little bit tired after holding you down for so many years, why aren't you giving me that grace? Why aren't you giving me that grace?
And again, people,
shout out to Shayla Johnson.
I like that, Shayla.
I want to focus on, again, having a conversation in a different environment.
Yeah.
It's necessary. You never want to put a person in a position where they feel like they're being attacked.
Yeah, that's true.
Ever.
That's true.
So I mean, listen, this particular individual you're talking about that don't want to communicate, don't want to have a conversation, it's this way, it's that way, and
a
that's
narcissist, says JB.
Right? First thing you need to do is, right, I believe in buttering your bread before you eat it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
No
dry bread. No dry buns.
You butter the bread. You get them comfortable. Bless out the dark coming soon. You get them. you get them comfortable.
And I will not be on that show.
Yes, he will.
You get them comfortable. Change the environment, and you slowly but surely bringing up memories and things that you guys both enjoyed in the beginning. Right?
Wow, you sound so sweet right now.
Because the thing is, right, we lose focus on all those things we enjoyed about each other, right? Because of what we experienced in the distractions.
Yeah.
So you have to recreate that, and then slowly but surely you start voicing the concerns of what you experience. Listen, remember that restaurant we used to go to? Oh yeah. That was the bomb.
Or remember the walks by the water?
Right.
Whatever happened to that?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was enjoyable. Why we stop doing that?
Right. That part.
Baby, that used to make you so happy. But to be happy, yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. We are just that simple. And I'm not saying this is gonna work for everyone, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but it's worth the effort. My thing is with us, right? We have to stop quickly throwing up the white flag.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to exhaust every possibility. Imagine.
And I'm going to be a bad guy. I'd rather go into the next question because there's a difference between the sexes when it comes to the red flags. Women do.
No, I said the white flag.
I know. That's what
throw in the towel.
Yeah, women technically do push towards their divorce way more than men do.
Yeah. This is a comment, not a question. Ashina Johnson says, life is too short to waste time on uncommitted, unwilling partners. Emphasis on unwilling. After 2 attempts, it's time to exit, in my opinion. And the reason why I wanted to read that is because the second part, the second part of that question is, what is the time period? And JB said there should be no time period. But let's look at this, right? Because I didn't get an opportunity to respond. I was reading comments. So I will say this. I feel like if you're in a committed relationship with someone, even if it's a marriage, and it is a toxic situation, is it worth you wasting time on your happiness and your peace of mind?
So who's losing time? And that's the biggest thing, and that's why I wanted to say that there's a difference between the sexes, right? Because a female's perception of time is a little bit different. She's born with all the children she can possibly have, and every year is an expiration date on that.
Yes, very
true. So it is what it is. So her being able to start anew is lot different than my ability when I can produce all the children I want forever in perpetuity, as long as I I breathe. I can have a pulse at 97 and still make perfectly fine children. If life haven't beat me down too much.
Right.
So when JB's response to it, it's a very male perspective because we do have the time, and it's a luxury afforded to men. Where with females, it's pretty much you have to get it right within a certain time because you can meet Mr. Right at 40 years old, but if Mr. Right wants children, then what?
Right.
Then what?
Right.
Then there's an issue.
But the other thing is
not that every female is driven to have children or anything like that.
Some
Disclaimer. But your options, might dwindle with time.
You was created to reproduce.
Yes, we were created to reproduce, but there are some women who
I'm not going to say that because I don't want to be canceled on my first show.
But listen,
cancel me, baby.
I do want to say that it's not just whose time, right? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, if you're in a relationship with somebody, even as a man, and you're not happy, and it's something that you've conversed with or conveyed, I should say, to your partner, whether it be your wife or a long-term relationship, whatever, you've conveyed this to them, and they're still not changing. Do you stay?
No, you can't.
So what I'm saying is, I believe in exhausting all options. Right. I believe in counseling. I believe in role playing. Whatever. Listen, even if it's bringing somebody else into the bedroom, if that's what you decide to do, I'm not saying I'm condoning.
Polyamory is big right now.
It's big right now. So the reason why I'm saying that I'm not down with that, my man is my man. But what I'm gonna say is this,
Erica, I don't know.
What I'm gonna say is, some people have to do what's right for their situation. Exhaust all options. Sit down, like JB said. I don't know about unfiltered, but sit down and have a conversation, an open-hearted conversation. Be mindful of your words, because words hurt. But let your partner know, look, this is how I feel, and I've been feeling like this for quite some time, and I don't want to continue to feel like this the next 5 or 10 years.
No, I hold on. Disclaimer from a man's perspective, for all the guys that just heard what she said, was pretty much at the end, before the relationship is exhausted, make sure that you get a threesome out of it before it goes. Expand on all options as you can. This way, if it does not work, you will have fulfilled a lifelong fantasy for most men. Please continue, Colin. I apologize.
No problem with that disclaimer. However, I definitely agree, but I do believe that you should go above and beyond and exhaust all options. However, nobody.
Don't invite nobody else.
No, it gets complicated.
It gets too complicated.
Nobody, right, deserves to live a lifetime of misery. It just shouldn't happen. And I'm not saying that's necessary, but again, I'm always one who's an advocate on saying we don't court each other enough. Although people send their first of course, most people send their first representatives, but we don't do the right and ask the right questions or pay attention close enough to some of the behaviors we should. I think that that art is a loss.
You're given. Here's the whole thing. So, all right, I get it. From your perspective, getting out of the relationship makes sense because you're not happy. All right, and it's time has happened, you've been unhappy. But what about the kids? Because whether you're happy or not, kids growing up in a 2-parent home are going to benefit the children statistically. It is what it is.
Unless they're witnessing unhappiness.
Yeah, but we're talking about toxic, which is not necessarily.
So let me ask you a question. Yeah. If a woman is getting...
It doesn't have to be just a woman, but yes.
No, but let me finish. If a woman is getting, or a man is getting physically abused, verbally abused, and your children are witnessing that, you stay?
No. Well, I mean, but
there are situations.
There are situations, but are those... Because and the problem I have with that is that those become conditional. Where it was very general when we were talking earlier. We were saying like, all right, well, you're unhappy. Right. Abuse was not actually brought into the conversation until we brought up the point that happiness really technically does not matter in certain situations. Because when you took those vows, it was to, like through sickness and health and, rich or poor, it didn't say anything about being happy. And a lot of people jump, and I'm sorry to say it because marriage in and of itself is a contractual obligation between two people, and there's benefits that come from it. Tax benefits, like saving benefits and benefits to the children, benefits to real estate benefits.
We no longer love each other, but we look good on paper.
Hey, and it sounds terrible,
children
but it is
know when the energy is wrong. Children
do know when the energy is wrong, but who did it blame?
In certain environments grow up to, emulate what they saw. But you should do everything.
I think everything possible.
I agree. You should totally
possible.
do everything possible.
Because if we have to be together, we have to be together.
Right.
And why not? Why not do what we have to do?
Right.
In those situations, because I'm just saying that people do take commitments. And I think that people run out of those situations just too quickly.
Well, and I definitely agree. I'm one who believes that we throw in the towel way too quickly.
Way too quickly.
Now, if there's abuse going on, I'm going to say,
or excessive cheating. Let's not even use abuse. Excessive cheating.
I do believe that that's mental abuse in and of itself, because you're reminding her over and over again that she's not enough.
Or him.
Right.
Or him.
Women cheat too now.
But for the most part, men don't know.
Yeah,
they're just better at it.
We don't be paying attention. You just like, yo.
Much better at it, though.
Yeah, oh no, she just said that she got her menstrual and it lasts for 7 months. That's why we ain't been doing nothing. But we fall through fictitious things like that.
I've never even heard that one. That's tough.
Makes believe it. But in all honesty, I'll say this again. Those who are in relationships, and if you reach a tough spot, which most people do, there's nothing wrong with going to counseling.
Yes.
Now, if you have a partner that's unwilling to go to couples counseling, then that should no longer be your partner. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Or at least seek the counseling yourself, so you can come to a better. Because individual therapy is just something
because everybody has traumas,
dogmatized in our community.
You grow up and you witness certain things in your household as a child, and it's important to tackle your own individual traumas.
And that's normally, the beginning of, the unhappiness is normally the inner unhappy of us that makes us, not tolerable to be unhappy because of something we're searching for ourselves.
Absolutely.
But as always, Erica, with these relationship questions,
I got some doozies this season, baby. And let's just remember, relationship is all kinds of relationships. So if you guys have questions and you're dealing with something with your child, that's a relationship. You're dealing with something from another family member, or even a work relationship. Send your questions in. Put your questions in the comment. We want to get you help. Not everybody is open to therapy, but this can be your therapy. We'll invoice you.
And if you don't want to, if you don't want to post it like underneath the comments here, you can definitely make sure that you can DM us. You can also email us at
conversationwithbless@gmail.com.
And definitely check us out on our different platforms right now, where we'll be streaming to YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just want to say that, interestingly enough, when you're talking about abuse, I believe this is National Domestic Violence Month.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know
it
that.
is. Yeah. It is. And, in the upcoming, before the month's over, I'm going to get someone up here to discuss that, and also a therapist about some of the abuse. Yes.
I thought we were still in September.
Yeah,
yes,
right?
it is.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, I didn't know that, but you're right.
It's right here.
Yes.
So we wanted to, and also shout out to Sarah's daughters and all the work that they do out there, locally, and talking about women being abused and things like that. That's definitely a serious topic and a serious situation. And again, anybody who's going through that and experienced that in any relationship, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse.
And it's hard to get over it. Even if you've gotten out of that relationship, you carry, as humans, we have, memory, right?
Yeah.
So we carry things into other relationships, and we might carry that baggage, that trauma into the next relationship. So it's important to heal.
Yeah.
It is very important to heal.
Absolutely. Now we are coming to the closing of the show. Brother Chambers in the closing remarks about this particular conversation with relationships and having the uncomfortable conversation.
So uncomfortable conversations is just going to happen. You're going to be uncomfortable. It is what it is. But what are you willing to do for your partner? Or what are you willing to do for yourself? Are you willing to be uncomfortable in the short term to be comfortable in the long term? And that's a question that you have to ask yourself before you make any decision.
Ms. Bermudez?
I just think that it's important to set boundaries. And to communicate what those boundaries are, because at the end of the day, you want your home life to be happy for you, your spouse, and your children.
Yeah.
So set the boundaries, have the important conversations so that your environment could be the best environment it could be.
And I want to leave my closing remarks saying, before we start to point the finger at others, please look inward first. Sometimes we're dealing with issues that, we want to switch around and point the finger at the individual. And it's a lot of things that we ourselves are suffering from to stop us from actually having successful relationships. And also, I want to say, before you make any decisions with your relationship, again, 80-20. You need to determine, what's more important. You understand what I'm saying? If this individual have been there for you when you needed them the most, that has to be taken into consideration. Yeah. Again, man, choose wisely. Date with intentions.
Yes.
All right.
That part.
Yeah.
Date with intentions.
Yes. And please, man, go
Qualify
back to
your partners.
Right. Go back to and also go back to a spiritual connection. I don't care where you get it from, but attach yourself to something. That's gonna be of substance, that's gonna ground you and stop you from just listening to your mama and them and your best friends that been single forever.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you for joining us again. Welcome back to our viewers.
And welcome,
Brother Rasheed
Chambers.
It is good to be here.
Yes. And shout out to Mama
more.
Blue, who has 12 hats for B.L.E.S.C, and that's the reason why she's not here. And we just want to give a shout out to everybody that's a part of B.L.E.S.C, the president, vice president,
treasurer, sergeant at arms,
everybody. The person who hold the gate up when we go into the office. Nah, I'm joking. But shout out to everybody, and also shout out to Scott.
Yes,
thank you for having us back once again.
Absolutely.
At
shout
Kearney
out to
Point.
Yes, there you go.
Please, guys, make sure y'all check out his page.
At Kearney Point, the studio at Kearney Point.
Right, man. Make sure you give Scott some business.
Yes.
And as well, man, as Erica always say, would you say peace?
Peace and love.
Everybody who says that's not really what they mean. But anyway, you have a good night, guys.
That's what I mean.
And we out.
Love it.
And love. See you
Y'all be
guys.
good.
Peace.
Peace.